Hi everyone, my name is Neeraj Kumar. Welcome to my video, a super simple way to learn DevOps. If you're planning to learn DevOps and don't know where to start and how to start, this video can help you out. I'm a cloud architect and Microsoft certified trainer. I'm very happy and excited to present this video to you. Some of the major topics we are going to discuss in this video are what is DevOps? Then we will discuss about DevOps process. We'll see where we can start learning this DevOps. One demo also we will see. And how we can start learning this DevOps, that we will try to find out. And after all this, we will summarize this. So let us start. What is DevOps? DevOps is basically a combination of development and operation. You will get different kinds of information, definition of this DevOps. The simple way we can say that DevOps is a combination of development and operation. Developer and operations working together to continuously provide value to customers is called DevOps. Basically, then what it does, DevOps try to reduce the time to delivery. And why it is needed? Now you see developer has adopted many different methodology for development, like Agile methodology. They work in a Scrum process. So what they do, they develop product or features in very short span of time. It's not like earlier waterfall methodology where one product came after a long time and then operation people used to deploy it. So now the duration of the new product has become shorter. So the operation team also need to follow some process so that they can quickly deploy to the production environment. And there this DevOps things comes into picture. As we are talking about, DevOps is a combination of dev and ops. So how it works basically, developer, of course, they plan to do some codings and all, then they actual code it, and after coding, they have to build it, test it. Once everything is done, this is getting released and deployed to the cloud or on-premise server, and operation people has to operate it, monitor it. So this is the way they work it. So there are hundreds of tools which is used for all this purpose, so even if you try to learn all of it, even if you are very good, it will take 1 2 months for things to learn, and it will take years to complete. But don't worry, even if you see there are hundreds of tools are related to DevOps, but everything don't need to learn, in the beginning. Slowly, you will be able to learn or understand many of the tools once you are into the move into DevOps. So what we are going to find out in this video is that where to start out of these hundreds of things. If you see where we can start and how very easily we can move to the DevOps if you are a beginner. So don't worry about this for now. Just you need to know these are the things. Like you see, there are GitHub, there are Git repository. Then you see there are TeamCity. You will find somewhere Jenkins. Then Puppet is there, and Cucumber is there. So these are different tools used in DevOps process at the different times for different purpose. Like there is a Datadog. See. But for now, we will not think about all these things. So let us move ahead from here. Otherwise, this becomes very complex. So first, we will see what is DevOps process. What happened into DevOps process is that we have a repository or source control or version control where the code is kept, or simply you say a project is stored. Developer work on that repository, and whenever they check in any code, or they make any change in the code of the repository, like suppose they have added a new feature, so complete code has to be package or build. We have to build the code, make a package to deploy into the cloud, and there's need to be some process to deploy it. That is the so for that purpose, we create a build pipeline, release pipeline. What build pipeline does, it compile the code, check whether there is any issues, and once it is verified everything is correct, it create a package, it create artifacts, and of course a test can be included in that process. So build pipeline what does, it check the code is correct, build the code and test it. Then once package is ready for deployment, so we have a release pipeline. What it does, it takes the package created or artifact, we say in this process, it takes the artifacts and deploy into the cloud. It can deploy it anywhere, but normally nowadays we have most of the application which is hosted on the cloud. So I have just given here cloud. It can deploy on the on-premise server also. So this is what basic DevOps process. There are hundreds of things included with this, but this is the basic things we can start from. So, however, only if you see, there is a repository, there is a build pipeline, there is a release pipeline, and cloud. So I assume that you already know the basic of cloud, maybe Azure or AWS. If you don't know, then you can check my previous video where you can learn Azure very easily. I will give you the link in the description. So if you know how to handle repository, how to create a repository in a source control, how to create a build pipeline, how to create a release pipeline, then you are able to you're able to deploy something, and then you can start learning more. So this is the basic things. Okay. Let us try to understand some more user-friendly way. So we can compare this DevOps process with this normal manufacturing process we have. In a warehouse, you see the things are kept, or even some of the components. Suppose a manufacturing company is manufacturing a AC, so all the component will be there in some warehouse. They, employee will take the component, then create it, then they keep it into the warehouse. Once the AC is manufactured, somebody has to package it, test it if it works properly, and then the final packages will be kept for delivery. So this first packaging of the product and testing is done by build pipeline. Then the product has to move to the delivery center, or some has to be delivered to the consumer. So that is done by a release pipeline. One thing you note down, this, if you try to remember sometimes what if you order something from Amazon, Flipkart, and all, some fan or AC, they will deliver some required component also with the product which is required for installation. So release pipeline also take care of that. It deploy the code and also make sure that it works over there. The same way, after delivering from Amazon executive, and after delivering, they come and install it and make sure that this works fine. So two things here, very important things. So one, repository is there, then build pipeline, just build the project or test it and create a fine artifact for deployment. Release pipeline, take the artifacts and deploy to the, in this case, we take as a cloud. This is DevOps in basic form. So what we will try to do is, we will try to find out which tools we can learn for what purpose. So you see, there are lots of version control or source control, but these three are very popular, like GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps repo. Azure DevOps repo is also internally uses Git only. Then we have tools to create build pipeline, Jenkins, TeamCity, then Azure DevOps pipeline. Again, for release pipeline, you can learn Jenkins, you have Ansible, there are many more. I've just taken 3 of this. Then Azure DevOps pipeline is there. In Azure, in cloud also, you have AWS, which is number 1, Azure, which is number 2, and then you have GCP, Google, a cloud platform, which is number 3. So these are the things what we are going, if you see, try to see, they're all of them, Azure is common, right? Azure DevOps. You can learn Jenkins also, but because I'm from Azure side, and this video is specifically created for Azure people. And so what, for this video at least, we will try to point to a tool that is called Azure DevOps here. If you see, this is the common in everyone. This Azure DevOps, Azure DevOps, Azure DevOps, and Azure. And as I told earlier, also I expect whoever watching these videos, they know at least basic of Azure. If you don't know, then you can go through my previous video and then you can learn Azure. I will provide the link in the description. So now we have finalized one tool which we are going to learn to get knowledge of DevOps and to create pipeline and to deploy the code, that is Azure DevOps. And we already know, considering that we already know the Azure. So we have decided where to start. And this is the one point we were supposed to learn from out of hundreds of tools. We will learn now Azure DevOps tool. Okay. Before we see some demo or something, we will see what is Azure DevOps a little bit. Azure DevOps is a software as a service platform from Microsoft that provide an end-to-end DevOps toolchain for developing and deploying software. You see, there are different tools for different purpose. For version control, there are different tools. For creating build pipeline, there's different tools. For creating release pipeline, there are different tools. But what Azure DevOps does, it provides all the functionality at single place. So what I found, in the at least in the for beginner, this is learning will be very easy, useful for future purpose. Later, you can learn other tools also. So Azure DevOps is a tool to build and deploy app to your server, web app on Azure or some other thing. There are different things can be done. Even you can deploy the database, you can deploy Azure Data Factory from one environment to other. So there are hundreds of things you can do. You can even deploy infrastructure, like you can create virtual machine through deployment and all. Those we will see later. I don't want to make complex for now. So one thing we have decided, we need to learn Azure DevOps to move into Azure DevOps field. You see, Azure DevOps basically has 5 important components. What is those? Azure board, which is basically used when a team work into a Scrum or Agile methodology that is related to project management. Now we are not working at least for in a team. We will learn. We are trying to learn this deployment and pipelines and all. So we will not think about the Azure board for now. When you get a chance to work in team, automatically you will come to know, or you have to learn that. So what we will learn here, Azure repo and Azure pipeline. There are 2 more things which will require later stage of your learning. That is Azure test plan and Azure artifacts. I don't want to discuss now. For now, at least for this video, it will make more complex. So only 2 things we are going to learn of Azure DevOps, Azure repos and Azure pipeline. If you learn this much, basic of Azure cloud, you are into DevOps. By the way, I've never told you will become expert of that. That require years of learning, work experience, and hard work. This is only for beginner. I've told many times. So this is the conclusion we have after discussing so many things. We have decided now key Azure DevOps tools we have to learn. And in Azure DevOps tools, only 2 things we need to learn. We need to know about Azure repos, how to create repository, how to check in code, how to check out the code, how to, if a little go more, how to provide access to users and those kind of things. And then we need to learn Azure pipeline, where how to create a build pipeline, how to create a release pipeline. So you see how we have come to a certain point from where we can start. This is the one thing we wanted to see into the video. Let me show what I'm telling, that really it is logical or whether it will work or not. Let me just share that one example. Yes, this is what. You see, this is Azure portal. If you have already worked on a login, so you see this is Azure portal. Here you will find Azure DevOps. If it is not here, you can search it from here and you will find it. If you click on Azure DevOps, you get this Azure DevOps window. You can separately also access this Azure DevOps. You don't need to go through Azure portal, but this way also. And Azure DevOps, first things what you do, you create an organization. So if you create here and click here, my Azure DevOps organization, what you will get your organization here. Like you see, one organization come by default, one is, you can create as many organization as you want. Inside the organization, you create a web project. So you click here. This is the project I have created, web application project. And if you see here, yes, let me just click it. So I will click it here. So you get a project. This is project. Inside the project, you have repository, you have pipelines. And as we have discussed before, if you remember, this is Azure DevOps. It has 5 important components. First is board, where project management, when someone work in a Scrum methodology and Agile methodology, so that time they do it. I'm not going to discuss it much. So if you click here, so this is the for project management. And then there is a repository where you keep your code, and we have pipelines where you can create a release and build pipeline, then test plans where you can include test plan, then artifacts. This thing we will see later. So only 2 things here we will, as we discussed, only 2 things we will care about. That one, first repository and then pipelines. Okay. So let me show you. This is the, if you click here, this is on the repository I have created. You can create a repository from here, new repository, and keep your code inside it. This one, build basic .NET code. So this is one code, one page website in .NET. Then we have a, if you click here and what you do, you click here, go to pipeline. This is a build pipeline. You can create new build pipeline from here by creating this. And then if you click here, you have a release pipeline. This is the release pipeline. And what it does, this release pipeline here in the Azure portal, we have a app service or web application where the code is getting deployed. Once the code deployed, it looks like this. This is a web page deployed on app services. You can see how we'll be able to find out. You see here, you click here. Then if you go to web app or app services, you will get the URL for, if you click here, the code is deployed. So this page it will. So this is a, so this is if someone, suppose if someone comes and makes some changes into the code, like you see, this is the page, this is source code. You have to check out the code and check in. There are different ways to check out. You can use different tools, or I'm directly making the changes here. This is not the way developer works. Unless you have to check out the code, take its copy, and then there's a feature branch, then a development branch, master branch. Here I'm directly making the change in the code so that the build pipeline and release pipeline run, and it deploy these new changes to the development production or app services here. So you see, I'm making the changes. Normally you do in some of the tools, and I'm committing it. You see, a commit added a new line for demo. And branch name, it is a master branch directly I'm committing. Normally we don't do this. We commit the code into a feature branch. From there, some review approval happens. Then it goes to master branch. That you will learn later. So I'm just committing this code. I've committed this code. So if you go, this code is, you see, committed here, added a new line for demo. This is the new changes I have done. I've added one new line. If you come to your this build pipeline, come here, you see now build pipeline has started running. And if you click here, you will be able to see what is happening. You see here, you can click here. You see, I have checked in the code into the repository, and this build pipeline triggered. So it will build the code now. You see, if there is any issue in the code, what it will do, it will this build will fail and it will not be deployed into the production. So you see, all things has been passed in. So once build and test is successful, it will create artifacts. By the way, all things come automatically. You don't have to afraid of by looking at this. So our this build is successful, and you see, we will see this build is successful now, just now. So I hope release pipeline also get fired. So you see this release pipeline, this is just now executed. And if you see here, also it will be, it is also succeeded, it is deployed. So now the code is deployed. So there should be some changes in this. I've added one new line, so that should come in. The new line should come if there is no error. Yes, see, congratulations, you have deployed the web app using CI/CD. So you see what components we have used. I have only been to Azure DevOps. I know one. I have Azure repo. I've created one build pipeline, one release pipeline. App services were there, and we were able to deploy. So our release pipeline works successfully, and we see the changes into the deploy. So this is what I wanted to share with you. So we have seen the demo. If we learn repository and pipeline, then we can go. So how you can learn it? That is the now thing. You have to open one Azure portal account, which is pay as you go. You need to pay something for it. It will, the amount will not come much. If you create and delete the pipelines and all, it will be very less, hardly less than 1,000 rupees monthly will come. It depends on how much you use. And then you need to go to Azure DevOps repo. You need to create a repository repo, store a web application code over there, create a build pipeline, create a release pipeline, create an app service Azure cloud, and deploy the code to app service. If you know this much, you will be, you can say, you know, the basic cloud DevOps. How much time it should take? You should be one day. You just get all the accounts and everything clear. Then one day it should take to learn basic of creating repository and putting code and checking out. Then one day for build pipeline, and one day for release pipeline, and 1-2 days for practice. So in 1 week, you should be able to create this pipeline and basic pipeline, and there are hundreds of new things to learn later. That's like providing approval, configuring trigger. There are hundreds of things which will take years to learn. But this is what you can start learning DevOps from here to doing this. Later, you can go for Azure 400 certification, which will give you recognition also, and then you will learn everything related to Azure DevOps at least. So what we have learned, we have seen what is DevOps. We have seen what to learn and where to start. What is Azure DevOps? We have seen demo. How we can learn Azure DevOps, that also we have seen. So if anyone say you have learned Azure DevOps, something about the Azure DevOps, you can create build pipeline and release pipeline. The first question they ask you, okay, tell me what is CI/CD. CI is the continuous integration, and CD is continuous delivery, right? What build pipeline you have created, that is a continuous integration. You see, when someone checking the code into repository, the build pipeline get fired. It compile the code and build it. And if there is some test, it will run it. This process is called continuous integration. What is continuous delivery? The release pipeline you have created, that is a continuous delivery. Whenever some artifacts will get generated, it will deploy to the cloud or app services in our case. By the way, we have not added any approval, but then normally we have a approval before it get deployed to the cloud or to production environment. So many cases it is manual. So in this case, it is called continuous delivery, but sometimes you will hear word continuous deployment, and people are basically sometimes they are confused between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. But continuous deployment is also the same thing, release pipeline. Only difference that when you automate that manual approval process, it is called continuous deployment. So this is what I wanted to share with all of you. Happy learning and thank you.